This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 240 is brought to us by Blueberry Markets. I'm going to remind you, there is a 40% deposit bonus going on right now at Blueberry Markets. That is more than enough for you to take all of the money out of the account you're trading with now and put it into Blueberry Markets. You are going to upgrade everything. You're going to upgrade the choices you have. You're definitely going to upgrade the customer service you receive. And now you are going to upgrade your trading capital by 40%. But only if you click my link. My link is down below in the Blueberry Markets blogs, which you can find in the show notes. Get everything in a trading platform that you deserve and get paid for it. Limited time only. Get started. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and I'd like to welcome some of the new people to the show. We've had quite a few. And in the comments section in YouTube, this podcast does go to YouTube, by the way. Some of them have observed that this podcast always goes way over 10 minutes. Well, two things. One, that is a very astute observation. Look at you. Two, this one might go way over. I don't know. I'm looking at my notes here. It really just depends on how much time I spend on politics, which you guys know I'm doing it more and more, but I hope you guys understand why I'm doing it. I don't love it, but it really does drive so many of the things we invest in right now. I'd say it drives the majority of it. And we have never cared more about politics as a planet than we do right now. Social media was a big part of that, and that is why one side of the political aisle tried to compromise 100% of it. And they almost got there. Because when we're able to talk to each other, bad people don't get to stay in power for very long. You know, the example I always give was the Catholic Church. Back in the day, I mean, they probably had a 700-year run where they just did whatever they wanted to do because nobody knew how to read. You know, back then, a book cost more than a house. But as soon as everybody started reading, boom, Reformation. Everything started to change. So this is just the situation we find ourselves in now. And people really go to extremes with the micro instead of the macro. And this is, I don't like seeing it, especially, I don't want to see it from you guys, because we need to do better. They, and by they I mean both sides of the aisle, want us to focus on the micro. And they have their own agents who will fan the flames every chance they get. You know, oh my God, this lady got shot in Minnesota. Oh, let's take both sides of this issue and just flip out of it. I'm like, God, you fucking losers, both of you. If you understand the big picture, everything else starts to make a lot more sense. And newsflash, we're in a fourth turning. Things, if you think things are chaotic now, I don't think they're going to get any less chaotic. That's just where we are. We used to always talk about, what would a world look like when gold hit $5,000? Well, guess what? We're here. And fourth turnings last a while. There's a lot of crap you have to undo so the people who are around during the first turning can actually prosper and enjoy their lives. And it looks like some of this is happening now, but I want to get everybody familiar with one term. And I think this will really help everyone see the big picture and hopefully focus less on the micro. And that term is something called realpolitik. Some of you may already know what this is. I'll go ahead and pull the definition up here. It says realpolitik is a system of politics or diplomacy based on practical and material factors rather than moral, ethical, or ideological premises. I can't remember who said it, but they said you can't run a country with hopes and dreams. It just simply doesn't work. Nations will always be at war with each other in some way. And the correct thing to do is to always do what is in the best interest of your own citizens. One of the examples is Cardinal Richelieu for France during the 30 Years' War. He actually he's a Catholic cardinal, sided with the Protestants so he could weaken his rival, who were the Catholic Habsburgs in Austria. And every move is an ends to a means. So if you're freaking out over the move itself and trying to dissect it and get super emotional over it, your chances of seeing this whole picture for what it is and therefore being a good investor and being able to protect yourself from the very peak of the fourth turning, which we're certainly not at yet. That's what's really important. Now, look, you can care about whatever you want to care about. That's fine. I just want you to keep your eyes on the prize, Contrarians. That's all. And I don't think a lot of you are doing that. Remember, even though a lot of us aren't rich, we still invest like rich people do, and rich people don't care about any of the micro things going on in the world. You know, if anybody sees the big picture, it's them. And just because we don't have their money doesn't mean that this method of investing doesn't all of a sudden not become the right answer anymore. It's the right answer. And so I want you to really consider this going forward, because the world is absolutely changing. And if you needed any evidence of that, the Davos conference from the World Economic Forum this past week was probably the largest signal of this whole turn, this whole change that I've ever seen. So we talked a long time ago. Peter Zion really got this right. He says globalism is dying. He said this back in 2014. It really started to die once the Berlin Wall came down. But it's just kind of slowly bled out over time. Now with globalism, countries do not look out for their own interest as much. A group of unelected plutocrats get together and they decide, okay, we are going to pull the strings of the entire world because we think we are smarter than everybody else. We have a superior bloodline, and this is how it needs to be. Now, if you ever wonder who's really behind all this, Mike Benz has done a great job looking into this, and Tom Luongo also. Again, I don't think it's in your best interest to sit there and play the blame game, but I think a lot of people miss the mark as to who's really behind this. And I think those two probably get it closer than most people do. Again, if this is your focus, if this is what you want to comment on, all I can say is eyes on the prize. But I don't know why the Davos people invited all of these Americans to show up at their conference, because they just got absolutely just called out and demolished left to right. You know, even the biggest mercenaries of our time, Larry Fink, Jamie Dimon, even they have completely switched teams. If you remember, Larry Fink and BlackRock, they were the hammer behind the ESG movement back in 2017. You know, Larry doesn't get on board with something because he believes in it. He just simply skates to where the puck is going. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, a bank that Donald Trump is suing, by the way, said a lot of the same things Larry did. Look, this whole climate change movement was stupid. It was a money grab. None of you people should be in power. You have nobody's best interest in mind except for your own. You install very weak people in Western countries on purpose so they can do your bidding. And a lot of times these people aren't even elected. And we see you now. And we're just here to say that it's over. Now, is the Davos and WEF gang going to go away tomorrow? No. This is going to be a power struggle for a while. Remember, they are masters of propaganda. I've said for a long time, I've always thought there are only two parties. Like Mike Benz calls these people the blob. It's not just the WEF. It's a bunch of organizations working together. To me, it's always been, and I'm going to offend some of my liberal listeners here, all 8 of you, but to me, it's always been two parties. The people who fall for the blob's propaganda and the people who simply don't. And if you've fallen for their propaganda, that's fine. They are masters at it. They are masters at getting you to support their cause, and they are masters at you being violently angry at the people trying to stop them. Remember, for the first time in my lifetime, their guy did not get elected president of the United States. And the very next day, here comes the smear campaign of all smear campaigns. I've mentioned before, I found that to be really, really strange. When all of the news channels and daytime talk shows and nighttime talk shows all turned at the same time, the very day after the 2016 election. And it was that day to where I'm like, oh, well, I know who runs the media now. And again, it's frustrating, but I don't get mad at it. That's just how the world is. And as an investor, my money has to go where the puck is going. And during the ESG movement, I made good money off of wind and solar. I gave a lot of it back on carbon credits, but I was still right to put my money in the sector that I put it in, because these people were trying to monopolize the world's energy, which is a crime against humanity. But The problem is they were completely shit at it, and you don't toy around with energy. And as a result of all the damage that was done here, energy, the stuff that actually works, again, not the hopes and dreams, is 100% on the menu for the fourth turning. It is probably the most important issue countries will be dealing with during this time. I said this probably a year ago, and now, go figure, everybody else has figured it out. What Donald Trump wants to do is take the entire Western Hemisphere and bring it into his sphere of influence. This doesn't make him an imperialist. He's not taking these countries over. If you've ever played games like Civilization or Europa Universalis, one of my favorites, there's something called sphere of influence. You don't own these countries. You're friends with them. You trade with them. But without actually being allies, they are more or less on your side. And the big endeavor here with Trump is to try and get North and South America under his sphere and kick China and Russia out permanently. Now, what this will do is hopefully have enough energy and enough minerals for everybody to prosper. On top of that, you have two really big oceans on both sides. Very hard to invade. So hopefully if there's any wars going on in the world, which like I said before, there's always going to be, they won't need to happen in the Western Hemisphere. Now, if you're in the Eastern Hemisphere, this probably should bother you, to be honest, especially if you're European. Europeans, without the United States to spend all of the money on defense and be their hammer, are now quite vulnerable and may need to start picking sides they don't want to pick. Why? Because as a continent, they are very low on energy. It's just very unfortunate. Some of the biggest atrocities in the world, if people really cared about the worst case scenario, they would look to a place like Yemen. Why does Yemen get destroyed the way it does? They're in the Middle East, and they don't have any oil. So nobody really wants to be their ally because they're like, well, what's the point of this? So poor Yemen really gets the worst of all of this. But again, I say this to paint the overall picture. It all comes down to energy. Energy is life. Without energy, you can't do any of the things we want to do in the future. And I'm telling you right now, once these things get going, AI, reindustrialization, even war, the demand for energy will be endless. We will need it from every possible place we can find it. With AI alone, a single modern AI server board can draw 10 to 20 times the amount of energy a normal server board does. Now, you put hundreds of these new server boards in data centers all over the world. What does that do? That is a force multiplier compared to the energy demand we have right now. And I've always said before with things like copper, for example, I'm like, well, if we have a recession, I would expect the price of a lot of these base metals to go down because what are we really going to be building in a recession? And that, to me, made a lot of sense until now. I just don't think it's going to matter because this race to secure something this important is not going to take a break for anything. I mean, if you look at it, there's a direct correlation when it comes to energy output and a country's GDP. And world leaders everywhere have to decide, what is the next 20, 30 years of my country going to look like? It's a heavy burden, but moves have to be made right now. So now that I've hopefully illustrated just how massive and how important this is, it's more important than anything we invest in right now. I'll tell you that much. And if you feel like you were too late to things like Bitcoin, to things like gold and silver, first of all, I don't think you are. Second, I have a strong feeling that we're going to see an absolute repeat of those runs going forward with energy. So you have a chance to still get in early here. Now, some of these things have run up a bit. The days of getting in at the dead bottom are probably over, minus one sector. That'll be the first one we talk about. But that's fine. If you really zoom out, which is what you're supposed to do, we don't like to get in at the dead bottom most of the time. We'd like to see a little bit of movement upward first. And if you zoom out, that's exactly what we're seeing in most of these sectors. So if you really weren't keen on energy investing in the past, it might be time to do that, because you saw what happens when people discover the rarity of certain things that the world needs, a la silver. As usual, we're on it first. But then a year or so, maybe 3 years later, the world finally catches up. And I don't want you guys blowing your chances here yet again. Because like I always say, this is a game of survival. We don't know what the worst parts of this fourth turning is going to look like. So we need to be prepared for the worst. And the people who don't have options, and money gives you options, are going to be the ones that get hit the hardest. Look at 2020. People all over the world, millions of people, got debanked. Even more than that, had to take a shot they didn't want to take, but they had to because they had no options, and they would have lost their job otherwise. Now, shit like this. So you need to take advantage of every single opportunity out there, and this is a very big opportunity. Now, some of you get a bit disenfranchised with the way some of the stuff moves, but if you take a long-term approach, like we did with silver, for example, and just simply collect it and accumulate it over time, and don't worry so much about what it does during that time, you are most likely going to be one of the people that benefit from this the most, just like we've done with so many things here on the show. All right, so I've spent long enough talking about the importance. I know it was long, but I cannot stress it enough. It is the most important thing in the entire world right now, and is going to be for probably another decade, maybe two. So I think spending 16, 17 minutes on it isn't the worst idea in the world. Thanks for sticking around this far. So the one place in the energy sector I think there is the most value in terms of how early you can get in, and we've talked about this a bit on the show in recent months, is going to be oil. Now, oil gets a lot of groans from a lot of investors, and that, to me, is exactly what I want to see. Silver miners, gold miners, got those groans for 4 or 5 years, till they didn't anymore. And we have a created price level, or I would say a band, that the price of West Texas crude is operating in right now. And a guy I follow, Marin Katusa, calls this the Goldilocks zone. This is the perfect range of prices to where everybody's happy and everybody makes a decent amount of money. And we got there because, in my opinion, because of Donald Trump, believe it or not. Stay with me. He actually got buddy-buddy with the leader of Saudi Arabia. The leader of Saudi Arabia's father didn't really want to play ball. He was very big into wielding the power he had through OPEC whenever he felt the need. And so OPEC, for a good 40 years, was a big and powerful manipulator of the oil price. Because even though the United States was on the petrodollar, there was still a lot of tension there. Then you have Russia involved, and it really made oil a bit chaotic there for a while. But right now, as we speak, they have all kind of agreed to say, okay, I won't manipulate oil if you don't. Or at least if we're going to manipulate it, let's keep it manipulated in between this Goldilocks zone. And that's where we are right now. Now, you can get away with this until the moment comes where you can't anymore. And when things really start to get chaotic, this range will certainly break to the upside. But for now, we have some really nice opportunities. Now, you might see some of these big oil companies approaching or breaking all-time highs, and this might disenfranchise you. I personally think that's a really bad idea. The producers move with price, and price is in a very low agreeable zone for right now. I do not know for how much longer. Oil companies historically have been wonderful companies to have in your portfolio, really forever. They do nothing but grow over time, and they almost always give really great dividends in the process. And the power behind at least some of the American companies right now looks like they're only going to grow and grow. I think the United States bringing Venezuela into their sphere of influence was a really big move on the global chessboard. There's a lot of things going to China and Russia that were coming out of Venezuela and not being reported. And then there was a lot of oil coming out of Venezuela that was being reported and that was going to China and Russia. And that's going to be no longer. Now, again, this can get you all emotional, or you can see it for what it is. And you can say, hey, maybe American oil companies are going to be a really, really good place to be. Canadian oil companies, maybe. That's a whole story unto itself. I am monitoring it because there's some really great oil companies in Canada. But the big question is, what will they be allowed to do? Canada, as of right now, is still ran by Mr. World Economic Forum, Mark Carney. And as long as he's there, and as long as they just won't let go of this climate change narrative, we don't know what Canada's going to be able to do and what they're not going to be able to do. We don't know who they're going to ally with. Canada became a very compelling story to me. Because if the U.S. is really trying to get the entire Western Hemisphere into their sphere of influence, Canada is one of the most important pieces of that for many reasons. Geography, oil, minerals. And again, my advice to you, no matter if you love the United States, hate the United States, love Canada, love China, hate China. Nobody cares. Keep your eye on the ball, because there's some really great opportunities at the end of this. And I think oil is going to be one of the most intriguing spaces out there, with some really, really crazy upside to be had. You guys know I'm a big fan of Rick Rule. He is very seldom wrong long term. Very seldom. I tweeted out this past week that he has rotated all of his physical silver into silver miners, which is somebody who holds most of their silver in silver miners. That news is very exciting to me. We'll see how it goes, but made a lot of sense too. Every time he moves on uranium, it's the right move. He's just really on top of this, and he even said that the one place he is going, because not only is there a huge bull case for it, but it is absolutely hated right now, is the oil space. And I saw when he announced it. And then scores of nobodies on Twitter were like, what are you doing? This is stupid. And his response was, this right here is all the justification I need. You know, Rick is wonderfully contrarian because he gets to be. He's a multi-billionaire. But again, we can also play this game too. And you should. And oil just happens to be where he is concentrating a lot of his time and investments right now. Moving on to natural gas. Oh, how frustrating is natural gas, contrarians, right? Well, I have taken a different approach myself. I'm going to become an accumulator of natural gas plays because it is going to be heavily used in the next 5-10 years minimum. And this is just one of those things that in the grand scheme of things, I think you can accumulate incredibly cheap. Maybe not off the dead bottom anymore. But like I said, that's a stupid way to look at things. Zoom out. Probably the best investor of the modern era, Ken Griffin from Citadel, went in huge into natural gas last year. That is one man I don't ever want to question either. Again, if you cannot worry so much about what it does in the short and medium term and just accumulate, I think there is a ton of upside here for you to be had. And the great part, I think, about things with oil and gas that are very unique to a lot of things we invest in, like, I don't know if I ever really want to get rid of my silver or my gold or my Bitcoin. So I don't really get to cash out, which is fine, but in a way, I'd like things I could cash out into. Oil and gas give you that because some cycles are longer than others, but they are cyclical. And so you can easily cash out after a multiple gain and then kind of be done with it. And then you'll have a bunch of extra cash to deploy elsewhere if you want. Now, another place that people don't like, which makes me like it even more, but this train is not stopping, and that's going to be coal. We've talked about it briefly. We've had, I think, one dedicated episode to it on this podcast. But I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I just want to kind of bring it up right now. People are going to need energy no matter where it comes from. And as dirty as coal is, God damn it just works like a freaking charm. It is so reliable. And the earth still has a decent amount of it. So if you only have so much to deploy, take a look at all of these sectors I'm bringing up today, but make sure coal is on there. Because again, you might not see it scrape the dead bottom like we saw during the height of the ESG movement, but those companies are going to be making really good money going forward. There's almost no way they can't. Microsoft, Google, Amazon have all invested money into coal plants. Because again, when the lights absolutely have to be on and servers absolutely have to be running, coal is one of the most reliable things out there. And those companies are going to do very well. Neglect coal at your own risk. So let us now turn it over to a sector that has treated us very well here at the 10-Minute Contrarian podcast, and that's going to be uranium. So here's how it normally goes down. We are early. We buy things when it's laughably stupid to buy them. But the people laughing at us are not good investors, so we don't care. If anything, like I just said with Rick Rule, that's the scenario we're looking for. If it turns your stomach to buy these things, then that's exactly when you should be buying these things. And we dealt with the ups and downs of uranium for a long time, but we held true. And we are getting paid out tremendously right now. Because, again, here's how it goes down. We get in first. Then the world figures out what we have known for years, just like with gold and silver and Bitcoin and all that. And they're like, oh, so this stuff is the future. It's vitally important. The market's tiny. It's the best, cleanest energy source in the world. And most of the Eastern Hemisphere, not named Europe, has realized this and started putting up nuclear power plants everywhere. Maybe it's a good idea to invest in uranium. Now, you're going to see some all-time highs in uranium because of this. Here's what I would say if you're not in yet. This stuff does move a lot to the upside and the downside. You might get a pullback. I scream at people and tell them, do not sit there and wait for pullbacks. It's probably in your best interest just to get it. But, not financial advice. If you wanted to look at other sectors in the energy space first, and then wait to see if you can get a dip in uranium, might not be the worst way to play it just because, I've been in the space long enough, I know how it moves. And I know, just like silver's becoming a problem right now, you got to ask yourself, when is the lack of uranium, above ground uranium, going to become a problem? Because it's not a problem right now. We know it will, but how long is it going to take before it really becomes the new silver? But even more important, because it's an energy metal, even more so than silver is. And the market is even smaller than the tiny silver market. I mean, the upside is going to be bananas here, contrarians. But I just feel like you're going to have some more time here. For you guys' sake, I hope I'm right. I'm already locked and loaded. You guys know that. And as are many of you. I know a lot of you who hold Kazatomprom, Cameco, Energy Fuels, like I do. Some of the ETFs that are out there, there's a lot of good ones. And I even know some of you who have gone cowboy and have picked up some of the juniors too. Very interesting. Maybe there's some extra value there, but you really got to do your research on stuff like that. But the point is, I think the whole sector is going to go up. It's going to go up a lot. There's never really a bad time to invest here. But if you absolutely insist on waiting for a dip, I think this sector has the best chance of giving you that. I hate to enable people who are being scared and sitting on their hands. But yeah, that's how I feel about the uranium sector as a whole. Now, as vilified as it has been lately, we can't have an energy episode and not talk about renewables. Like I said, we're going to need every molecule we can get, no matter where it's coming from. If there were companies who were burning animal dung, I would be giving them a look. Like, this is where we're at. And the thing about renewables is, well, there's a few things about renewables. One, they are getting better and better over time. Two, China has really gone all in on solar. They're building solar factories everywhere. Because you have to remember, they're smart. They look ahead. They're seeing this global picture. They're seeing themselves get shut out of Venezuelan oil, for example. As far as energy goes, they're really strong in some areas. They're really weak in others. And now that globalism is dying out and almost completely dead, they don't remember, they're going to be a big player in the AI space too. They don't want to live in a world to where the energy is just not there, or they have to rely on other countries, God forbid. I think this is going to be a play, contrarians. Again, it's just a matter of when. Unlike uranium, where I think there could be a dip, I think we could actually, if you're looking for something that's going to scrape along the bottom because sentiment is just so hated right now, keep a very close eye on this space. I'm certainly going to. We still have this whole stench of the ESG money grab movement that needs to blow over. It's probably never as high as it's been as I speak to you right now because of Davos this past week. But I think this provides a tremendous opportunity to get in pretty low in a sector that we're just going to need no matter what. And therefore, it's going to go up just like everything else does. And I know some people are very hardcore and they have an aversion to this. It's like, look, man, renewable energy, when done right, can be a wonderful thing. It just got weaponized by some very bad people. And to the delight of energy investors like ourselves, this has given us a very unique opportunity to get in low while the majority of the stuff is making new highs. This is something Elon Musk is big into. For everything he does, he's going to need boatloads of energy. And he even wants to take solar panels into outer space where the sun never sets. Like, he gets it. He knows this is one of the best plays, one of the best answers on the board long term. And I know we're moving into an era where we have to spend time and energy on things that actually work and work well. And we know they work well. But renewables will. And I want to be invested when that time comes. Sentiment here is really poopy, and that is exactly what I want to see. Excellent opportunity here, Contrarians. Just is what it is. And finally, I always throw this into the energy episode because it is an energy metal, and that's going to be our old friend copper. Hey, look at our copper stocks go up. Look at our copper price reach new highs. Feels good, doesn't it? Unless you missed out. Well, got good news for you. I think it's still very early in the grand story of the copper space. Remember, just like silver, we don't have a lot of it. We probably have less copper than we do silver in terms of overall demand. And people have figured this out, but not at the same rate they have with silver. But it's the exact same story. That's some good divergence right there. I mean, Contrarians, I cannot get enough copper exposure. It doesn't matter when. I would normally be pissed that it's moving the way it is right now, but I'm not, because I still think there's ample time for me to get in the grand scheme of things. And we have not yet hit that, oh shit, we're running out moment like we are experiencing in silver right now. We haven't gotten there with copper yet. But if you know the supply story with copper, oh, buddy, it is only a matter of time before this story starts getting real traction. A lot of people thought it would never happen in silver until it did. And all the while, I'm like, oh man, wait until you see copper. It's so much worse. And like I said, I still think it's very early. I will direct you to my Substack blog, which you can sign up to for free, by the way. It is a free Substack. Link is down below in the show notes. And some of my best alpha actually comes from there. There is one particular blog post called The Beginning is Near, where I showed you how long commodity cycles generally last and how we are probably just entering one right now. And so, God willing, I have years and years of crazy upside behind the commodities plays I hold right now, if history is any indication. And unlike past commodity cycles, there's the narrative to where we have finally hit that critical mass to where we just don't have enough for what we want to do. I don't remember this being a narrative in the past, but this is an accelerator we have behind us in modern day. God, I would hate for you guys not to take advantage of this. But check out that blog post if you haven't seen it, especially if you like it when I get in my technical analysis bag, because you're going to see some of that there too. Yeah, copper and copper equities hitting all-time highs, so what? Not financial advice, but I would just add on everywhere I can. Collect. This will be the one thing you really don't want to be without moving forward. I harken back to, if I'm going to beat my own chest a little more here before we sign off, I was asked that question a while back. It's about 3 or 4 years ago. And the question is, what is your favorite investment 2 years ahead, 5 years ahead, and 10 years ahead? And 2 years ahead, I said Bitcoin. Nailed that one. 5 years ahead, I said silver. Nailed that one. 10 years ahead, I said copper. You really want to bet against me? I'm so mega bullish on copper, Contrarians, it's not even funny. This is like forever money. And I want in as much as I can be. Now, on X, formerly known as Twitter, yesterday, I promised you guys some serious alpha. If you don't think the alpha I've already given you is enough, let me give you a bit more. Now, some of you guys already know this, but I just want to reiterate because I think people forget. And I don't think most of the investment world understands this. But I just got done explaining how important and how much upside I think there is behind copper. And we already know the crazy upside there is with silver. But did you know that most of your silver does not come from silver producers, does not come from silver miners? It actually comes from two places. One, gold miners, which the legendary Doug Casey just yesterday said in his entire life, even with the move up in gold miners, he has never seen a better scenario to invest in gold miners in his life. And this guy's like 80-something years old. So understand what he just said, and also understand how much silver you're also getting on the back end with a lot of these miners. Now, how much, you're going to have to do that research, but it's kind of worth doing, isn't it? Because what is having all of this extra bonus silver do to a company's earnings? Rocket ship. And the same goes for base metals. We've done a whopping one episode in the 240 episodes I've done on this podcast regarding base metals. I'm like, looks like they're making a move, and then it just didn't make a move, or the move didn't sustain. But they've all sustained now because the smart investors know just how essential these things are going to be. And like I said before, the only reason you would not put money down on base metals is if you don't think we're going to build anything. Well, we know now that regardless of what the economy does, it is all systems go. Build. It's a race. It's a race for our future. And everyone's got to participate. But a great bonus you get here in the base metal space is a lot of back-end silver. Do you think most of the market knows this? They have no idea. So if you want some slick value under the radar plays, which aren't as under the radar as they were before, but in the grand scheme of things, and that's the big thing here, Contrarians, zoom out, the overall picture, they absolutely are. Maybe go back to that episode, go to your podcast player or go to YouTube and type in base metals and check out that episode because I gave you a number of ETFs you can choose from here and some big miners. The big miners episode was a cornerstone episode here at the 10-Minute Contrarian podcast. But big miners are going to be your best play here. They're going to move slower, but they're also going to give you downside protection you wouldn't get elsewhere. And I know nobody cares about downside protection when everything is going berserk, but that doesn't all of a sudden make it less important. Contrarians, the real value here overall, I think, are in base metals plays, big miners, and royalty plays, where you're going to get extra downside protection to boot, even though they're not going to go completely ballistic like some of these other more volatile companies might. But again, you need these to anchor your system. I love my big miners plays. I love my royalty plays. They're the frickin' best. And it gives me so much coverage across the energy metal space. Again, I'm going to say it for probably the third time today. Not financial advice. A company I don't have, but I've been looking at, and I got a signal on it 2 months ago. It's moved up, but it hasn't moved up a ton, is going to be a company called Tech. Ticker symbol TECK. I believe I mentioned 5 miners in the big miners episode. This one would have been number 6 probably. But man, you're getting a lot of copper here. I think it should have ran much more than it has. And amongst a whole host of other critical minerals. It's a big boy with a ton of assets. Now, one of the reasons why the stock might not be going crazy is because they just merged with one of the big miners I mentioned in that episode, Anglo American. And we don't quite know who's going to get the better end of the deal as far as the investors go. But I honestly wouldn't even care. The merger with Anglo just gives it even more asset exposure. You're going to need to do your research here just like you are everywhere else. But this is a unique situation to where I think price might be being a bit suppressed in a place to where I think long term we're going to look back and say, man, I could have gotten Tech pretty cheap. But shoot, I got so deep into my bag here, Contrarians, I almost forgot about predictions. Let's go ahead and put those out. Crude oil futures, West Texas crude. This is going to be the most difficult one, I think. But I'm going to go oil higher. I have the added benefit of having election day be in early November. So you're going to have 2 months after that to where you don't have to suppress gas prices for the sake of the election. So I think that might actually benefit us. And like I said, very smart investors are in this space. I don't think they're in it because they think oil's going to go down. So I will say oil up. Okay, nat gas. I'm totally cheating here because you guys, if you've been paying attention, you've seen the crazy run up in nat gas this past month. It's very weather related, but if you look at a chart of natural gas futures too, it didn't really do much to the chart because we had a pretty bad December. But if you look at the chart, I'm going to pull it up right now. This is where I have a real advantage of doing the energy episode last. We started with price right around 3.659. And we are currently at 5.329. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and play the odds and say that by December 31st, compared to where we were on January 1st of this year, we are going to be higher on nat gas prices than we were at the beginning of the year. And with that crazy advantage, I'm going to feel really dumb if I get that one wrong. Okay, moving on to uranium. I got to hedge my bet here, contrarians. I'm going to say uranium down. We do get dips here, like I spoke about. Maybe we'll get it down the road. Who knows? I don't have much of an argument here with uranium. It's just one of those things. We're not going to hit that magic moment to where we realize how scarce it is until later. So maybe in the process of that, we might catch a break here. I'm going to say uranium down. And then the last one's copper. I will say copper up. I think this is going to be silver light until further notice. If you love the silver story, but you feel like it has ran away from you, one, I don't think it has. But if you feel that way, the natural place to go from there is copper. And I just don't see a world anymore where the price goes down for too long. So I will say higher there. So higher oil, higher nat gas, lower uranium, and higher copper. We'll see. But this is a sector I would love to add on to with both hands. As you guys know, I'm a bit low on cash right now, so I can't just be buying up everything I want. But it's a shame because I really want to load up on energy so bad right now and have even more exposure than I already do. Because it's pretty obvious where the puck is going at this point on a global scale. Love it or hate it. The world is more or less telling us what's happening. And your smartest investors have gotten in. But that still leaves a long way to go. So we have the verification on all fronts, from a geopolitical side, from a smart investor side. What are you going to do with it, contrarians? Is energy really a crazy investment when the entire world is telling you to go that way, and the majority of investors haven't listened yet? You're not crazy. You're still just very early.